Welcome back to The Mouse and Men, where we explore the grown-up side of Disney. I'm Bradley. I'm here with my co-caster Chris. CCC, co-caster Chris. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, co-caster Bradley. Hey, wrapping up this series on our top 10 attractions inside of all of the parks. We went from opening dates in reverse. So we started with the Animal Kingdom and then Hollywood Studios. Last week we were at Epcot, and now we're at the Magic Kingdom. And so it's so much fun to talk about the Magic Kingdom in general. I'm pumped to talk about all this today.
Yeah, and looking at the list of attractions, trying to pick out, okay, which ones would I recommend? I feel like this is the longest list. Now it's been open the longest at Walt Disney World Resort. It was the first. It's a bigger version of the first park that Walt Disney did, Disneyland. A lot there. So you're welcome to join us. Follow us on social media at The Mouse and Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. You can find us on YouTube, where we broadcast the podcast. You can find all of those links over at themouseandmen.com, where you can also get our top 10 things for grown-ups to do in Walt Disney World. So be sure to visit us there. But right now, let's just jump into the Magic Kingdom and our top 10 attractions for grown-ups there in the Magic Kingdom. So Chris, it's the place where you kind of have to go. My wife and I went down there to just go to the water parks. We went down there for, I think we were there for something else. And she said, well, we can't go and not go to the Magic Kingdom. It's the one we have to visit. So it's the one we have to cover.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It would not feel like if your vacation did not include a trip to the Magic Kingdom, it would somehow feel incomplete. And this is as adult Chris talking. And I know that a lot of what happens in the Magic Kingdom is directed towards those fantasy cartoons from the early days when Walt was still running the animation department. And then, so there's a lot for children to do, and a lot of the child inside all of us to remember the things that we did. And so, but it's the iconic piece of what Walt Disney really brought, which is the Magic Kingdom, this place, the happiest place on earth, this place where you can just go and you can become part of your most favorite cartoons or motion pictures that were animated from growing up. But it would not be complete if I just went to Hollywood Studios or I just went to Epcot. And even though that you and I have done that, it's like the Magic Kingdom is where it all started. So you got to go back to where it began.
Yeah, and I think, with Animal Kingdom, there's some movies that are incorporated there. I think movies and Disney Channel are probably the ways that most people consume Disney product. Hollywood Studios has a lot of Disney movie stuff, but also it's other Hollywood stuff. So it just feels like old Hollywood. Epcot, very little in the way of a movie influence. You got some Frozen, but not a whole lot other than that. Three Caballeros, but then the Magic Kingdom. I mean, movie intellectual property everywhere. So this is where you're gonna find connections with all those movies. I grew up with the VHS, watching those at home. This is where I connect with all those. So let's dive in, because I know each of us have a top 10, 11, 12 list. Yeah. We got to narrow this down. There may be some cheating and throwing a few together. But Chris, why don't you lead us off? What's one of your must-do things in the Magic Kingdom?
Okay, this was really difficult, not to create a list of my favorite things to do inside of the Magic Kingdom, but which ones to bring up, because I know that in weeks past, I didn't know, like, maybe I will start at number 5 and then work my way to my favorite ride in all of Epcot or or Hollywood Studios, that kind of thing. But there are so many on my list with this one. It would almost be a crime not to start with my favorite ride in the park and then work my way from there. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to start with Space Mountain. It would be again, if Magic Kingdom is the must park that you have to do if you're going to go down to Disney. For me, once I'm inside the Magic Kingdom, I almost have to walk up Main Street USA and take a right and go to Tomorrowland, and Space Mountain be my first ride. I have done it the other way and have a lot of fun, but it's like that's when I know that I'm inside the parks, when I am sitting and waiting for Space Mountain to go and then finally ride it. That's how I love to kick it off. So the fact that it's been there for so long and it's so memorable. I know that when we talked about our favorite rides and attractions from all of Walt Disney World, that I brought up Space Mountain as my top 1 or 2 rides in all of it. You walk in and you're immediately enveloped in this music that I've been listening to for years and years. And you walk down these long corridors to find your way to the line. It's so memorable. It's so nostalgic. It's such a part of Walt Disney World and Magic Kingdom in and of itself. That's got to be my number 1 ride, probably in all of Disney. That and Spaceship Earth, but space themed. I'm going there. I don't know. See, now I'm already arguing with myself. Or is it
I know,
Roller Coaster or Tower of Terror?
Now you're talking yourself out of it. But I love this ride too. There's kind of the there's race for space is one of the things that they call, as soon as when the park opens, they call it rope drop. And there's kind of this mad dash, although it's more of a power walk because can't run inside the parks. Just pro tip, trust me on this. If you want to walk faster, speed walk faster, clench your butt cheeks. Like, what? Try it next time you're out on a walk, because I know everybody's walking with COVID. You may be listening to this on a walk. Just try it. Clench your butt cheeks and see if you can walk faster. Guarantee it'll work. Everybody's rushing for Space Mountain or Big Thunder Mountain, Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, Splash Mountain. Those are kind of the big thrill rides that get long lines. That's where people are headed first thing in the morning. I gotta say, if you want to ride Space Mountain, ride it a lot. I went during Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. No joke. There were 2 people in front of me in line. I mean,
wow.
It's got a long queue. You've got to walk all the way up inside this, the Space Mountain building. And I didn't see anybody until I get to the line, and, they have you switch back and forth all the way up. No, we just kept walking. We almost walked straight onto the ride. It was fantastic. So
that's what you dream about.
During Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is a great time. It's a less attended special event. And it's a special ticketed event. So it's not, you can't get in with just a regular park pass. So I agree. That's way up on my list. I'm going to stay in Tomorrowland for mine just to keep it easy. Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin.
Yes.
And it doesn't, it's very much a Toy Story theme. Now Toy Story is 25 years old or something like that at this point.
That's wild to think about, but I think you are right. I think it's mid 90s.
Maybe 26, because wasn't it around 1995? Anyways,
like that.
What makes this what puts this on my list for adults is the competition thing. Look, my wife says I'm a little too competitive. Chris, one of the first times we met was playing flag football, and I'm pretty sure I was the shortest one out there. 5'7" on a good day, standing on a 7-inch box or something. But I was not afraid to guard you or anybody else, go up against them. I'm competitive to a fault. In Space Ranger Spin, you're in this little pod. You got a joystick to control which way you turn, and then you've got a gun for each rider. that swivels, and you're just trying to hit as many of those targets as possible with your little laser gun, whatever, just blinking light, whatever Woody calls it. But it's so much fun. You get a score at the end. So you get to compete against the others in your party. That's why it makes my list just a blast right there in Tomorrowland.
Ooh, I like that. That's clever. Blast. Because that's what you're doing the whole time. You're blasting all of those aliens from, is it Zurg? Or is that
Emperor Zurg?
Emperor Zurg, yeah. You know what? It
Who's
made
basically
it high on my
just
list.
Darth Vader.
That's true. Yeah. He's Darth Vader in a different outfit. That made my list too. And talking about that competition, that was one of the first rides when my wife and I took our kids when they were younger that really like opened up my son's eyes, because he loves gaming. He did then, he does now. He's now 14, going on 15 here in a couple of months. But when we first went there, he was probably 6, maybe 5, 6, 7, somewhere around in there. And, most rides you go on when you go to any amusement park, and especially Disney, they're amazing, they're fun, they're exciting, but to a degree, they're passive. You are looking around at all the things that you like. It's a feast for the eyes and a feast for going up and down, and that's all exciting too. But Space Ranger Spin, Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, it blew my son's mind, because there he was able to put himself inside the ride, and he was able to affect the outcome by shooting the targets. And so it just the playability, the replayability, the putting yourself inside and actually having a score at the end, it blew him away. I loved it. I love going back. Even if I'm not with my kids, I would go do Space Ranger Spin, which I may have done a time or two.
Someone like your son, I think, would really enjoy whether your child's a Star Wars fan or not, Galaxy's Edge, because as immersed as you are in the game in Buzz Lightyear's Space Ranger Spin, when you are flying the Millennium Falcon and you've got, I believe it's six or 8 people, all that have a role, much like Mission Space that we talked about, only I think they've really done it well with Galaxy's Edge. It's a video game type atmosphere. They're gamifying these rides, making you more an active participant. And I think it's really going to bring in adults, but it's also going to bring in those teenagers that are a tough crowd to win over as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot wait to experience Galaxy's Edge. We'll be there one day. We'll be there soon.
So what's next on your list, Chris?
All right. So next on my list is one of the most iconic, nostalgic rides for me in all of Walt Disney World. But Haunted Mansion for me over, I believe, isn't it Liberty Square? Yep. Haunted Mansion for me is just, again, one of those rides that I can't not go to Magic Kingdom and not ride at least once. It's a dark ride. It is scary, but it's also fun. And so it never gets scary enough to feel like you're in a real haunted house, like you would if you went to Universal, or if you went to your local carnival, or to Six Flags or something like that. It's meant to be spooky, but not necessarily frightening and scary. But it's so fun and so nostalgic to, 999 haunts that you experience while you're in that little buggy going through. I can't not ride it. I love it every time. It's just so iconically Disney that, it wasn't until the early 2000s that Disney made a property around it, like a movie with, I believe it was Eddie Murphy. Yep. And so I just watched it recently. I believe around Halloween. I'd never seen it. I'd heard that it wasn't that great. It was pretty good. It was not to the level of Pirates of the Caribbean, but it was pretty good. Continue. No, just wanted to just reiterate how it's such a fun time, and it's done so Disney-esque in the way that the Imagineers put you inside of this experience. And if you go to Disneyland, it's a little bit different. The buggy ride, the way that you go, even when you get into it, I think at Disney World versus Disneyland, when you're learning about this haunted mansion that you're about to go in Disneyland, I think you go up and while the room expands. And then in Disney World, it does the opposite. I can't remember exactly which one, but just to be able to ride both of them in Disneyland and Magic Kingdom is enough to say, hey, I did both of them and I can tell the difference. But the rideability, the re-rideability is always so amazing. I've been riding it now for almost 40 years, and I'm still not tired of it. So that's why it came in at my number 2.
Well, I love it as well. And yeah, what you're saying, I do believe you're right. At one, the ceiling goes up, the other one, the floor goes down, and it gives this stretching effect. But
right,
just the detail that they put into it the first time. I mean, they haven't really changed a whole lot other than when you're going through, you're looking into a mirror and a ghost arrives and has been hitchhiking on your doom buggy, as they call it. I think that's changed a little bit, but that's about it that has changed, at least for the Disney World version. So all the sleight of hand, cool movie tricks that they used are still there for the most part. And what I love is you're going through this mansion and you don't see any of the ghosts. You see chairs moving and things knocking and just weird stuff happening. Then you're going through an attic, and as you leave the attic, your doom buggy actually turns around and you ride down backwards. And as soon as you get outside, now you can see ghosts. And the rumor is that you actually fall out of the attic window. Now you've died. And because you're now a ghost, you see the ghosts. And so I love knowing that now and going and writing that and seeing those details. Knowing those things don't give away the ending, it actually enhances it in my mind. So Haunted Mansion, yes, what a fantastic ride. I love it as well. I try to ride it every time I'm there. And once again, I'm going to stick in that general area. So these aren't necessarily the order that I would rank these. I'm just kind of following your lead. And I'm going to, one of these is actually over in Tomorrowland. So you know that I'm not going to just use one. These, while the thrill is not there, I think the educational content, and it's not necessarily that you're thinking about or learning any new information, but it's just how you think about things. The one in Tomorrowland is Carousel of Progress.
Yeah.
And the one over in the Liberty Square area is Hall of Presidents. And what I love about Carousel of Progress, which we need to talk about this on another show, Chris and I got stuck on this thing at about 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I believe it was.
The park was open till I think 3 a.m. And we get stuck and watch the same scene 3 or 4 times. We were like, oh no, we're on a work trip. If we're stuck here for hours, and this just shows how exhausted we were, thinking that at 1:30 in the morning, we're still going to be there at 10 o'clock the next day. Yeah. But how do we explain ourselves? We got stuck on a ride in the Magic Kingdom when we're supposed to be working the next day. But it gets you to think about, okay, how has society progressed with technology, and just thinking about where technology is going. On the flip side of that is this looks more at history from a leadership perspective in Hall of Presidents, where you actually get to interact through audio animatronics. You get to see these presidents in real life. But like these movies in the Magic Kingdom kind of come off the page, these presidents kind of come out of the history books. Right now we still got several presidents still living. But the 40 before that, or however many, 42, that they have since passed on. So this is the best way to kind of see a 3D version of these men moving around and talking So it's just a really cool kind of educational thing that there has to be some maturity to enjoy it. But I love both of these.
Yeah, I agree. They feel like ones that I always had to ride from when I was little up until now. Even when the people around me don't want to ride them, I'm like, okay, you guys go get a turkey leg somewhere. I'm going to go sit in the Hall of Presidents, just because,
Ooh.
again, the nostalgia
Turkey leg
piece
should be
of
its own attraction. I
that's
apologize for
true.
interrupting, but
No, that's true. But yeah, it is interesting how the one is like history lesson and Carousel of Progress. It's kind of like a history lesson, but to tell about technology. But then in Hall of Presidents, it's like this cool piece of technology that was state of the art when Disney first premiered it at the World's Fair, but to tell about history. I thought that was kind of, with both of those kind of playing off of each other. It's a history lesson to tell technology, and the other one is technology telling a history lesson, with the fact that when they premiered it, it was just Abraham Lincoln that would speak, but just how that blew everybody's mind when it first premiered in the Hall of
exactly.
Presidents. But yeah, I agree. I love those. Again, nostalgic purposes. When you see the technology that they're talking about in the Carousel of Progress, you see a version of, like, even at its most technologically advanced in the way that it's portrayed, it's probably the way that we thought in the late 80s, early 90s that technology would look 20 years into the future. And some of that stuff, like virtual reality glasses. I was just telling you just a few minutes ago about how I got on my son's Oculus before we went live here, and it totally messed with my equilibrium. So I've spent the last hour just trying to recalibrate the way that my brain looks at the world, because I was floating through space and totally had a mind-bending experience. And so some of that's there, but some of it, you can tell that it's kind of dated, but in a way that, like, it's Disney. And so that nostalgic piece, even though some of that technology is dated, or it never premiered, or it never came out into the real world, it's definitely worth taking a shot at that great, big, beautiful tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think that we've talked about Tomorrowland is primed and ready for a refurbishment, because
Mm-hmm.
we're now getting into the time period where, back in the 70s, in 71, when the Magic Kingdom opened, they were looking to the 2000s of that's the future. Now we're 21 years into it. What does the future look like now? And I think with Epcot as well, they're starting to work on Epcot and what the future looks like, showcasing that in Epcot. So I think this is primed and ready for it. But yeah, two things. Look, is it going to knock your socks off? No. But if you go in with the right attitude, the right mindset, really, really interesting, really meaty rides, attractions, not much of a ride in either of these cases, but interesting attractions. So Chris, take us to number 3 on your list.
Number 3 is Big Thunder Mountain. And growing up, I always called this Thunder Mountain Railroad. You know how things will just get implanted in your brain, but it was called Thunder Mountain Railroad in my head. Even though, as I look at the official name, it is Big Thunder Mountain. I've never put big in there for myself. I've always just called it either Thunder Mountain or Thunder Mountain Railroad.
Well, it's big. It's big to me because I'm 5'7", because you're 14'7". You've got a good 9 feet on me. It's more of a foothill than a big mountain. So
yeah.
I understand. I mean, you're a big boy.
Yeah, understood. Well said. But I mean, again, just for thrill ride's sake, it is such a fun ride to just cruise around, checking out that little goat that's there going up and down, hearing the wildness, ride in the wilderness. That old thing that's been there for years and years. I love just finding myself back on Big Thunder Mountain. And so, again, part of what I like to do when I go to any theme park is to be thrilled and to ride thrill rides. And so some of it, Carousel of Progress, Hall of Presidents, it's there for nostalgia's sake and just to enjoy myself. And again, Carousel of Progress and Hall of Presidents that you just mentioned are ones that you can just sit there and enjoy yourself. But the thrill ride of Big Thunder Mountain is why it's number 3 on my list. What about you? What's number 3 for you?
Yeah, so I love Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. By the way, it's great because it does have that thrill aspect to it. more of your traditional roller coaster. Again,
Yeah.
I'm going to stay in Frontierland where Big Thunder Mountain Railroad is. I'm going to go right next door to Splash Mountain.
Nice.
And I love this because look, most of the time you're going to go to Walt Disney World in the summer. It's hot. It's muggy. You need to cool off a little bit. And Splash Mountain is a great way to do that. I personally have loved the story that's there. Grew up, whether it's right or wrong, on the Brer Rabbit stories, and getting to see that, you get to ride through and see that played out. So always really cool there. And I think The Princess and the Frog is a great movie. Just,
Yeah.
I mean, with jazz music, just the storyline is great. So getting Splash Mountain rethemed for Princess and the Frog, I am really excited about that. So I like where it's been. I'm going to miss it, but I'm also really excited about where it's going.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be there at Walt Disney World before it changes, go check it out so you can ride it and see what it's like as it is currently, and then go back and ride it again. I don't know when exactly they're going to close it for this retheming, but it will be closed for quite a while. So I hope that I can schedule my trips around that. But Splash Mountain has to make my list of must-dos in Walt Disney World.
Again, it's just such a fun ride. It's such a it is fun and it's thrilling, but just that fun aspect of the from starting out and enjoying yourself and taking the dips, getting splashed, doing all that kind of stuff is fun. It's just a fun story. And again, knowing that it's going to be rethemed, I think it's a perfect retheming if they're going to take out that Song of the South, or is that what it's called? Yeah, Song of the South movie theming, and put in something else. I couldn't think of a better one that's already kind of in kind of that swampy vibe and that feel. And so this is going to be exciting to see what happens. It will be sad to eventually go to the Magic Kingdom and not be able to ride Splash Mountain because it's under refurbishment, but understand that we're onwards and upwards, so to speak. But yeah, it definitely made my list too. And I love that you're kind of staying in the themes of everything. I want to, for my next one, it's kind of difficult because I know that a few that are on your list or have to be up there, and I don't want to necessarily take them from you.
Oh,
and
take
I was going to say, I've been going first for the first half of all of these conversations. So I'd love if you just got your number 3, if you want to throw in number 4, and I'll back you up on this one.
Okay. So number 4 is currently unavailable, and it's got kind of a partner attraction that is closing at the end of the month. But I love this aspect of it. And I believe there's something at Epcot. There's something at the Animal Kingdom that's kind of in the same vein, but this is a pirate's adventure, Treasures of the Seven Seas. This is over in Adventureland. It's near Pirates of the Caribbean, where you come out of Pirates. What it is, you go up there, and it's a little hut. You will probably walk past it and never think twice about it. But you go in and you scan your magic band, and what it does is it gives you clues, and you have to find these little symbols and these little nooks and crannies around Adventureland, just that one area of the park. And I can't remember how many maps there are. There may be 4 maps, 5 maps, something like that. But you can go through, and it's just a scavenger hunt. They may have prizes for kids. Look, I'm an adult. They're not going to give me much of a prize, but it's also just a fun thing to do, especially if you've got a child who's a little bit older. The other kids maybe just need to sit down, cool off, take a break, but your older kids are still wanting to go and do something. Look, you're never going to be too far away, and you can go do this. the program that's shutting down at the end of January is Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. I've not played this all the way through, but it's fun. So you go to the fire station, which is my Zoom background. You go to the fire station and you get a starter pack of cards. It's free. You just say, hey, I want to play Sorcerers of the Magic Kingdom. Say, great. Here are some, I think they're hero cards or something. It's Disney heroes on there. And they give you your first clue. And you go all around the Magic Kingdom. You would not know that these things are there unless you're looking for them. You're looking for little emblems on the ground where you stand. And when you stand there, a screen in front of you, which may have looked like a poster in a shop window or something, suddenly changes. And now you're having to fight a Disney villain.
Cool.
You find out what villain it is, you choose which hero card you want, and you hold that up. It scans the card and it determines if that hero would beat that villain. Really fun for kids, just kind of I don't know. I mean, I've never played Dungeons and Dragons, but something that kind of fits that realm of card games where you're battling monsters. Such a blast. Sad to see it go because I wish I could have played it all the way through. Not sure if Pirates Adventure is going to come back, but I love this kind of thing. They've got something similar with passports and adventurers clubs in other parks. But it's something that's really interesting, just scavenger hunty kind of thing to do by yourself or with your kids.
See, that's one of those things that I get a little jealous of people that live in the Orlando area that can go to all of these parks and get a season pass and go often, because things like that, until you really told me about them a few years ago, I didn't even know they were there. I probably walked past them 1,000 times, not knowing to stop and to observe what that is, because me and my family, when we usually go, it's like, okay, here's the map. We're going to go here, then we're going to go here, then we're going to go here. We're going to eat lunch here. We're going to go do this. And so it's like a mad dash to try to get as many things checked off our list. But I would love the idea of doing something like that more often. Now, a few years ago, you filled me in on the Pirates one and the one over in Animal Kingdom. And when my kids were a little bit younger, we did those and had a freaking blast doing a scavenger hunt inside of these parks that we would have never really known about. But you told us about them and we were able to go experience them. So thank you. I love that we get to talk about these and our favorite attractions, things that we love to do inside all of these parks, because I'm learning as much as I hope that our audience is as well. So I love these ideas, and it makes me want to slow down even more or just be able to go that much more often. So I'm not in such a rush to check off all the thrill ride attractions before I am then another year or two before I can go again. So I appreciate the give and take that we get to do of teaching each other things, and also hopefully teaching our audience.
Yeah. And look, it's pretty easy with me. You put something on the sign that says Pirates, and I'm going to love it. Or at least I'm going to stop and figure out what it is. So Chris, what's number 4 on your list?
Number 4 is something that you told me about. You were able to write it, I think, a good year and a half or so before I was able to, which is the Seven Dwarves Mine Train. I remember you were able to go not long after it opened, and it was, I think that I was there at one point, and Seven Dwarves Mine Train opened like the next month. And so I was sad that I wasn't able to get there. So you went before me as it was open, and then like a year and a half later, I finally got to ride it or something like that. But the ride is so thrilling. It's so much fun. I think it's a great addition to the Magic Kingdom. And again, at this point, I think that the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train is, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years old at this point. But it still feels like one of the newest things to do at the Magic Kingdom for me. But it's so exciting. I thought they did a great job incorporating the Seven Dwarfs story in Snow White and using new technology to show Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in kind of that new way that you can I guess you take a camera or you display something kind of like a PowerPoint presentation, but you can kind of do it in an animated way to where the eyes, the facial expressions, they work in this way to make them even more lifelike. And so the story, again, Walt Disney World is all about enveloping you in an experience and a story. But the story versus the thrill of the roller coaster is just great. So that's why it comes in number 4 on my list of the most my favorite attractions of Walt Disney World's Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, look, the queue alone. This was at Space Mountain. They started adding in some little short video game type things. I mean, very similar to Asteroid and some of those old arcade games, but they did it short
Right.
so that as the line moves, you're not too bent out of shape about losing your progress. But Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, I mean, they've got something with gems where they float down, and I can't remember if you're trying to collect them or, so you're just supposed to collect a certain type of gem. Then there's, I mean, it almost looks like a Coke machine, and you stick your hand in there and you stop the water and it plays different notes. I'm trying to remember what else is there. Right as you get inside, there are 7 barrels, and as you spin it, it projects one of the dwarves up on the ceiling.
Yeah.
And if you get all 7 spinning fast enough, Snow White appears in the middle. So if you're down there, try to get everybody in line spinning this stuff. Look, you may not be able to do it right now. But when you can get all those things spinning, you get this cool little Easter egg hidden reward of Snow White appearing on the ceiling. So
see, I didn't even know that. And I've learned something else here. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great. And then the ride itself, I mean, these cars, they swing just like a bucket that you would have in a mine. So as you're going around, it kind of swings you out. I love it. It's just another little detail with that ride. Love this ride to death. Yeah, I can't remember. I think I was there during preview mode and tried to get on the preview, but couldn't, but was able to ride it on my next trip. But definitely one of my favorite rides, if not my favorite ride in Magic Kingdom. I'm going to say this one, this next one, my last one, because you mentioned that your son is 14, almost 15, which means he's going to be getting his learner's permit fairly soon. Just warn me so that I can stay off the roads and wear a bike helmet while I'm driving.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
The Speedway.
Oh yeah. Now
it's loud. It smells like gasoline. I kind of love it. It's not like running around the track where you can really pass anybody because you're you can only move, I don't know, 2.5 feet left to right because you have to follow track, and it's not easy. But here's a competition that, try to steer and not hit the bumper rails. See if you can do that. It's not easy. But I think you should take your son, and he can't get his learner's permit until, I don't know, you say he makes it 8 laps.
I like that.
Without hitting anything. Look, he'll never get his learner's permit in that case. I don't think I could make it around 1 lap without hitting anything. But the Speedway, it's the Tomorrowland Speedway is on my list of things you got to try.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, going back to when he was younger, I can remember taking both kids on that one. And just the fact that they're behind the wheel and they get to do it and they get to push the accelerator and how much fun that is. Again, that would have probably moved out of the way these days for an actual vehicle, whether it be whatever hunk of junk they can afford once they turn 16 or the brand new Tesla or something. I think that my daughter wants a Jeep Wrangler is her vehicle of choice right now. My son wants a Tesla. So I doubt that either of them are going to be getting that anytime soon. But that's what they desire to have when they turn 16. But
you could do the whole dad
Tomorrowland
joke.
Speedway is their first one.
You could just get a little Matchbox or Hot Wheels car. I guess it would be Matchbox. Get the Matchbox Tesla. I don't know if they make it. I know they make a Matchbox Jeep Wrangler because my son got one for Christmas. But yeah, that I understand that your kids want the real deal now.
Yeah, no. When I was younger, I wanted Daisy Duke's Jeep Wrangler with the Golden Eagle design on the front of it from the Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah,
that was the first vehicle that I wanted, and it still is one that I would love to own. Then it was only overshadowed by the Toyota 4x4 from Back to the Future a few years later. But those are my two dream vehicles growing up, being a Bama boy that wanted a good 4x4, whether it was that Golden Eagle Jeep. Maybe it was like a CJ5. It may not have even been a Wrangler. We'll have to ask our friend Rob, who's a Jeep aficionado. But then it was that Toyota 4x4 with the cool KC lights on top of it from Back to the Future. Those are the ones that I wanted growing up. But yeah, the Tomorrowland Speedway, though, were both of my children's first vehicles that they ever drove. So that's a nice little piece of nostalgia every time we go back there as well. Number 5 for me, it's difficult because there's so many still on my list that I could choose. But I would really like to focus on one that is currently not running at the recording of this podcast, but one that I have to ride every time I go, which is the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, or AKA the People Mover. I've never really known it as a Tomorrowland Transit Authority. My family and I, we've always called it the People Mover, but it's just such a fun little zip around Tomorrowland, and to see maybe the Tomorrowland or the future that never was, that even Disney was looking at. Some of the things that you can see when you're in there are kind of what Disney thought Epcot may look like, this experimental prototype city of tomorrow. But it's just such a fun ride. It's nice because usually you can start going fast enough and it's a long enough ride to where you can get a nice cool breeze for a few minutes while you're dealing with those hot summer temperatures and humidity in the middle of Florida. But I love the Tomorrowland Transit Authority, aka People Mover, is my number 5.
I do too. Like you said, you get to sit down, you get some breeze. You do kind of go in and out of doors. I think we talked about sometimes when you're on it, you always go through Space Mountain. Sometimes the lights are on and you can see Space Mountain with the lights on. You got to catch it at the right time. But that's a fun one as well.
A quick little side note. When I was really young, it was one of those rides where when I was probably 5 years old, that I can still remember when my parents first took me and my brother to Disney World. And as you're on the People Mover, you get to a place where, like you're saying, you go inside of Space Mountain. And at that point, I wasn't big enough to ride a roller coaster, and I was scared and I didn't want to ride a roller coaster, but it said to Space Mountain. And I can remember my dad pointing up at that sign and going, "We're going on the roller coaster." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so scared," and just kind of like cuddling up and having put his arm around me. And so that's a fun little memory that every time I see that sign that says to Space Mountain, I think back about my dad pulling that prank on me when I was a little guy.
Oh, I love it. I'm going to have to remember that one. Because my son may be one of the he may be a little more cautious than maybe I was. But I love that. Yeah, look, we as adults, we know we need to take our breaks. We need to pace ourselves, and the People Mover is a fantastic way to do that on a hot Florida afternoon.
Yeah.
Chris, so run us down some of your honorable mentions that we didn't get to mention.
Now, have you gotten your number 5? Because I would hate to take one of your last pick here.
I did, because we swapped halfway through. We swapped.
Oh, okay.
So
Gotcha. Okay,
Speedway was my last one, but I've got one or two honorable mentions.
Several of them that I could have put up near the top, and only having to pick 5 was very difficult, especially at the Magic Kingdom when there are so many iconic rides. But Pirates was definitely one of those that it is a must ride for me. I can't not go to Disney and not ride Pirates. Also, the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. We just in the family we call it, let's go ride Winnie the Pooh.
Okay,
but the mini adventures of
so a note about that queue, there's the wall of honey dripping down.
yes.
Now you don't want to touch a lot of surfaces, but if you take your hand and wipe it across there, you can reveal images behind the honey.
Yes, we have done that. And when you said the thing about the Seven Dwarves Mine Train, I'd never done it effectively enough to see the Easter egg that is Snow White appears. So that's on my list to do as well. But those cue things that you can do, it's just so much fun. And it adds it, like, part of me, if I've got to wait 60 minutes to go ride the mini adventures of Winnie the Pooh, they go by so quickly because the whole time you're playing games, or kind of a whack-a-mole thing that you can do with carrots and a gopher and all those types of things. So the way that they have incorporated even more modern technology into the queues has made the rewrite ability that much better, because there's just so much to do while you're waiting.
Agreed. So continue with your honorable mention list.
Well, again, several of them that you said. Buzz Lightyear was definitely up there for me. Splash Mountain, Carousel of Progress. Also, and I'll say this finally, the Swiss Family Treehouse is, again, one that I have to do every time I go. It's a nice little leisurely way to spend 30 minutes or so walking up and down the treehouse there. But always fun, always entertaining. And now I'm getting really excited about going again, hopefully in a couple of months when this COVID stuff starts to die down.
Yeah. So my honorable mention list, look, I love Peter Pan. I think more from a nostalgia standpoint, but they redid the line because for whatever reason, it's still a 70 to 90 minute wait for that ride. And I don't know why, but they had to redo the line, and the things that they do with projectors where you block the light and create a shadow, and that interacts with the projection, where it's being projected on the wall, is just fantastic. So all the little things in that queue alone are an attraction. But the other one that I didn't get to mention was the Barnstormer. Goofy's Barnstormer, which may be one of the shortest roller coaster rides, if not just in Walt Disney World, just at any theme park. But fun, short thrill ride. If you've got a kid who's interested in getting started, but maybe a little hesitant, it's a good one. It goes fast. It's got some drops, but I don't think it flips upside down, but it's short. So it doesn't last long. They're only screaming their brains out for a few seconds. So that kind of rounds out my list. But hey, look, this was a multi-day park before multi-day parks were cool. There's just so much here and so much packed into the little nooks and crannies that it's really worth taking your time and looking around in the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I completely agree. Again, I think that we could have done a top 20 list and still not covered all the ones that I like riding while I'm there. So this has been a fun walk down Nostalgia's Lane and Thrilling Lane and all of the other lanes that Walt Disney's Magic Kingdom provides. I could be there right now and love it. Not quite ready to risk COVID yet, but hopefully in a couple of weeks, months, when the vaccine becomes a bit more readily available, this is going to be one of the first things that we do is make it down to Magic Kingdom.
Agreed. So look, we've had a really fun look at the Magic Kingdom. Now let's get to plussing. Plussing. So for plussing this week, look, we've been stuck inside. The weather's not as good. When we started recording, it was flurrying in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And look, Tennesseans take flurries and really just go nuts. All the milk disappears from grocery stores. All the bread disappears. I'm not sure who's making milk toast, but that all disappears. School was canceled here just because somebody said snow. But doing a lot more just with COVID, not going to the gym as much, having to work out at home, and because it's cold, working out inside. So what have I been doing for the last month or so, I've been working out at home and watching while I'm working out the Marvel movies.
Nice.
Because, well, I'd seen them in release order. I specifically watched them in timeline order, which means instead of watching Captain Marvel, I think next to last, it was actually second. So it was Captain America.
Oh, Captain America, yeah.
Then Captain Marvel. So a little bit different order. We'll cover that in another episode. But I watched these. And why? Well, what's more motivating than watching Captain America and the Hulk and Thor? It's like, okay. I mean, I may never have a Norwegian god or whatever Thor is type body. But I was also doing some Chris Hemsworth workouts that I'd found on YouTube. But just great motivation of working out and keeping on it. So my plussing this week is watch some of those Marvel movies while you're working out. Let that be your motivation to not skip it.
That's such a killer idea. That's so cool. I love the motivational aspect of watching them while you're working out. The question for you, you mentioned three guys, the Hulk, Captain America, and Thor. Is there one of those three that motivates you more than the others? Did you find that out while you were watching and working?
I just like the character of Thor more. Yeah. Look, Captain America, he's got this great heart, and then he gets the body to actually affect the world. That's great. Hulk is just a loose cannon. I love that Thor, kind of had to crash and burn and rediscover himself. Just love that storyline. However, my wife says I have more the personality of Tony Stark, and I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not. Some of the arrogance, I think, hard-headedness maybe, but hey, he's got some really cool toys. I mean, have you seen those cars in his garage? Thor's got a hammer, but Tony Stark has supercars in his garage. So wouldn't mind being Iron Man. He had he was pretty buff himself, just
totally
not in a god type way. So
yeah, absolutely. I think those are great answers. And yeah, watching those types of movies to get yourself motivated and pumped up while you're working out, that's perfect and a great plussing, because they're there. If you subscribe to Disney Plus, go watch all of them right now. But grab a set of weights and do some curls while you're watching Thor train to become to become one of the Avengers and to take over, and all of the Avengers together. I think that's a great idea. Well done, man.
And I one of the workouts I did was a Chris Hemsworth workout that I found his trainer on YouTube explaining some workouts that they go through. So maybe that'll be an episode coming up.
Ooh,
a little
yes,
teaser.
Indeed.
Maybe not giving too much away.
Love it.
But hey, to be sure that you catch all the latest episodes, first, subscribe to our podcast, but also follow us on social media at The Mouse and Men on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Find us over on YouTube where we broadcast the podcast, and go to themouseandmen.com where you can get our top 10 lists of things for grown-ups to do in Walt Disney World. But you can also get links to Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all of it right there on our website. Oh man, I cannot wait to get back. Look, a dream would be to just spend, I don't know, a month down there and really take in everything across all 4 parks, 2 water parks, all the resorts, eating lots of food. I think we need to get back to some food stuff. I'm getting hungry. But hey, the whole reason we're here is because we don't want to grow up too fast.
But we want to keep exploring.